Welcome to the University of the Philippines, Diliman, College of Arts and Letters, BAHAGINAN. Launched in 2016, BAHAGINAN, or Sharing, is the college's research dissemination platform. In response to the many challenges of theater artists and educators in the time of the pandemic, the Department of Speech Communication and Theater Arts, in cooperation with the Office for Initiatives in Culture and the Arts, organized E-mergen Theater and Performance. Through these brown bag sessions, theater practitioners and educators will share their experiences and insights on performance making amidst the lockdown and health crisis. The sessions will run from October 9 to November 25. I wish to thank our speakers for sharing their precious time with us. No online module can match their experiences in the theater. So join us as we learn, be enlightened and inspired in the wonderful world of theater and performance. And as we say in the theater when we welcome our audience, enjoy the show!
Hi, so magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Nandito po tayo ulit sa Emergency Theater and Performance. Ako po ay honored na ipakilala ang ating speaker ngayon. Siya po ang creative navigator ng Taxi Theater, si Eric Villanueva de la Cruz. Hi, Sir Eric.
Hi, good afternoon. Salamat, Olive, and thank you for inviting me to this brown bag session.
Hi. Eric, kasama natin ngayon sila Isa, si Ish. Nandito rin ang aming mga MA students na si Fen at si Victor, at may isa tayong undergraduate student, si Seth.
Uy, next naman, may mga MA students pala tayo dito.
Yes.
Meron kayong mapulot sa isi-share ko sa inyo na production.
Yeah.
This is something that I actually developed with Olive and Isa in one of our classes in MA, yung dramaturgy class namin. So it started as a creative project sa class ni Sir Unreal.
So may future palang maging company if ever.
Yes, actually, oo.
Small project. So pagbutihin mga students ang inyong ginagawang project. Eric, siguro pwede nating mapag-usapan. I was telling our students kanina na Taxi Theater offers different performances. Actually, it's new for me. Matagal na siyang ginagawa, hindi lang napupush because laging ang dominant sa Metro Manila Theater is the dramatic theater. So baka pwedeng makwento mo sa amin, ano ba yung Taxi Theater? Ano ba yung creative navigator? Because most of the time, ang in-introduce kasi namin dito sa colloquium namin ay mga artistic director. So maybe you can begin with that. Thank you.
Well, Taxi Theater, the idea of using sensorial storytelling or exploring new ways of storytelling, it started as early as 2012. May mga certain projects ako na napanood, I was inspired by it, and I always tell them that yung isa sa mga pinaka importanteng project na nakita ko noon ay kay Olive and kay Sir Jetro. No, I always say that because talaga yung nagplant ng very important seed when they used theater in the dark. And then it was they were telling a poem, no? And they asked the students to execute that small production. I was part of the audience. Thus, with the poetry, they were using sensorial stimulations, so sound, smell, touch. And dun ko na-realize yung possibility of using the senses or stimulating the senses in terms of telling a story. So as early as 2012 na nagsa-start na ako paunti-unti sa mga productions ko. Sound muna, paano mo i-explore yung sound, yung pinapagapang mo yung sound sa low-tech pa lang nun. No? So yung mga balancing lang ginagawa ng mga estudyante ko nun para lang madaya namin na parang lumalakad yung sound, yung mga ganong stuff. And then finally, I decided to, sige, let's start something. Let's form a company or a group. And that's what Taxi Theater became. Actually, Taxi Theater is theater applied experiential immersive. So different ways of approaching theater making, basically. I wanted to include applied because of my training in PETA, I wanted to explore applied theater, but more of inclusive theater, disability theater, things that will be able to help in the society in a way. And experiential and immersive because that's pretty much the form. Taxi theater is more of personal collaborative platform, because it's not a registered group. It's more of myself, working with other people, because it's a collaborative platform attempting to merge art and science in finding new ways of telling stories and delivering unique experiences, theatrical experiences for the audience. And the reason why I called myself a creative navigator and not as an artistic director is because I never really believed that only one person can, dictate the well, at least now. Before it works, but for me, I think now it's better if it's not just one person. You have a person that works with a lot of people collaborating on things. That's why it's more of a creative navigator. It's like navigating a ship. You have the captain, but you have a lot of people working in the different parts of the ship that are very, very important. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that makes sense to me. So yun. So kaya siya creative navigator, and also lagi siyang open. Ano gusto natin gawin? Ano gusto mong gawin? Let's do it. Let's work on that. So really, it's a lot of it became more of a transdisciplinary collaboration actually, because we also talk to different people. I've worked with architects as well on one project. So different fields ang ina-explore, no? And also because my background, ang undergrad ko ay physical therapy, so parang nahanapan ko ng paraan kung paano ma-merge yung dati kong course na yon into my theater practice. So yun. And that's what Taxi Theater became actually.
Okay, that maganda yung naging sinasabi mo, Eric, na nakikipag-collaborate ka at transdisciplinary pa nga yung ginamit mong term. Maybe you can tell us about the artistic process of Taxi Theater. Kasi ang pagkakaintindi ko, bukod sa collaboration with professionals, you're also collaborating with students, specifically Benilde students, and of course, friends from PETA na ang naalala ko dyan. So baka pwedeng ikwento mo parang paano ba ang artistic process kung collaborative ang setup at kung baga ay ang sentro nga, yun nga yung parang sinasabi ko na parang ang heart ng Taxi Theater ay yung aesthetic experience ng audience. So paano yun?
Ano nangyayari? I think mas maintindihan natin siya if I go through the process of Musta. Kasi sa Musta yung pinaka-collaborative talaga lahat, yung process of creation. So yun. So if you will allow me, I'll share the screen. So, unless meron na pong mga katanungan ng ating mga estudyante, meron na po ba? Naman.
Meron pa? Kung sakaling meron kayong question, pwede nyo rin ilagay sa chat. Si Eric ay willing sumagot ng mga tanong habang nagpe-present lang siya. So, let's make this as informal as possible.
Kwentuhan lang tayo.
Oo.
I think that's one of the things that I actually learned working in the productions of Taxi Theater. May structure pero you have to make it more of a play. Creating these story pieces needs play, imagination. So kapag ka masyadong restrictive yung process, mas nahihirapan mag-isip or mag-develop ng mga stories, or it's very difficult to create. So yun. So okay. So this is Musta. Yun yung poster niya nun. So it's a multi-sensory experiential journey to mindfulness. Originally, it was a multi-sensorial journey from depression to mindfulness. So, okay. So it was done by Taxi Theater in partnership with the Arts Management Program in the Dela College of St. Benilde. So I was working with those students. just to give you a general overview, bakit ko ba naisip itong ganitong mga klaseng production sa Taxi Theater? Ang pinakamalaking influence ko is the aesthetics of engagement ni Arnold Belland. Basically, ang sinasabi lang niya, he was looking for a way to appreciate art na nai-involve yung environment. Kasi parang before, the way you appreciate art kasi it's very visual. No? Formalist, you look at the lines, you study the artist's period and stuff like that. He was looking for a more engaging, way of appreciating art. So that's why he was able to come up with the aesthetics of engagement. So there's a continuity with the environment, assimilation, engagement in terms of the audience, experiencing everything in the environment. Hindi ka lang naka-distance. Kasi before, kailangan dumistansya ka para ma-appreciate mo yung work of art. No? But because of him, nagkaroon nga ng idea nun during that time na you can appreciate something by being in it. No? Especially architecture. No? You can't just appreciate architecture by looking in it. You have to be in it to be able to fully appreciate the entire thing. So it's a unified perceptual situation. And karamihan ng mga proseso ko, malaking influence din, of course, yung pagiging PETA member ko. No? So meron kami tinatawag na aesthetics of poverty. It implies a sense of beauty which belong to people who live in a condition of material deprivation. So hindi lang to basta magamit ka ng recycled materials or mag-upscale ka, hindi lang basta-basta ganon. Ang point ng PETA sa aesthetics of poverty is that yung context, yung availability ng mga materials na yon in itself, no matter how scarce they are, or kung gaano man kamura or kababa yung quality ng mga materials na yon, putting them together, applying diskarte or creativity, lends itself its own aesthetic. No? So kaya karamihan ng mga workshops na ginagawa ko or mga productions na ginagawa ko, as much as possible, important na mag-work within their means. Okay? So yun. Okay. So sa mga nagawa ng Taxi Theater, ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo sa 2012, yung Mulagat. It's a horror play, actually. It's an experiential horror play. We used a labyrinth or a maze to get to the room kung saan magaganap yung buong eksena. And dito nagsimula na kaming explore ng smell at saka ng sound. So ito yung first experience ko noon. At ito rin yung direct application nung Theater in the Dark na na-pick up ko noon sa production si Olivia at ni Sir Jetro. Dito talaga, hindi sila nakapiring, but the audience itself is plunged into darkness. So when you're plunged into darkness, all of your senses, they open up. No? So we took advantage of that. No? So we removed the visuals and then let the audience feel the story through the sounds and the smell that we created. So it's part of the experience. And then nirestage namin to noong 2016 for the launching of Taxi Theater. So yan yun. So multisensorial, theater in the dark, horror production. So yan yung space nun. Sobrang hirap lang gawin ito kasi yung sound kailangan mong palakarin, kailangan mong umiikot. Tapos yung kinesthesia ng audience, we have people running around in the dark. No? So the aisle kailangan naka-choreograph na mabuti para at least nararamdaman talaga equally ng mga audience yung nagaganap sa paligid nila. And then also in 2016, we did Tacloban. It's a multisensorial dinner performance naman. No? So I collaborated with the hotel and restaurant institutional management school of Binild. So na-create sila ng dinner for our guests, academics of Binild. And I created this entire experience. It talks about it deals with the experience of of Tacloban, Leyte, and when it was ravaged by the storm. So yun. So yung food nito naka-curate, yung pag-serve naka-choreograph din, Meron kang poetry na marinig, meron kang mga sound na marinig, and meron kang performance din na nakikita habang kumakain. Okay, so yeah. And there were moments that they're also plunged into darkness. Tapos feel lang nila yung sound, yung smell, and then tsaka bubukas and serve yung food. So it was a continuous gustatory experience. Then 2018, we had the multisensorial journey to mindfulness called Musta. So yun. Just to take you through the story, the audience follows Shiloh, a young teenager suffering from depression. So basically, the space that we used is the SDA theater, but we transformed this 400-seater proscenium into different spaces. No, hinati-hati namin siya. We didn't just arbitrarily divided the space. We were together with the students. We were exploring the spaces, and we were saying, okay, kung ikaw, we were exploring the feeling of the space. Pag bumaba ka, ano nararamdaman mo? How will that coincide with the journey of the audience through the space? So, yung nakikita nyo ngayon, yun yung final space, no, yung pinaka-stage. That's the Oasis. That's from the top view. So, ito kanina, ito yan sa may mezzanine yan sa taas, sa balcony actually. Transform namin into this kind of space. So, dyan mo start yung journey. So, the audience actually follow Shiloh. So, in creating the spaces, yan, dito na ako nakipag-collaborate with the students. Meron din akong kasama na faculty dito, si Cruz, no? She helped me design some of the spaces, no? Some of the installations, and then we work with the production design and theater art students in creating the pieces, which you will see later on. So the only thing that we used are found objects. We were recycling, upscaling stuff, no? And also organic materials. So we were using flowers, no, to create all of these installations. So these are examples of the installations that we've had, no. Ito yung mga pieces na yan, no, yung mga writings na yan. Those all came from students as well. So they add to it as well as they journey through it. So most of the design, most of the spaces, they kind of reflect the inner workings of Shiloh's mind. In creating the story, what we did, we had several sessions with the students, and I was lucky to have some students who are also having mental health difficulties. Well, we can call it lucky. In my case, I mean, they wanted to do this kind of production and develop this kind of production. So they were really sharing their experiences with me. We've had several playwriting sessions in a way, or the story development sessions with them. Kasama rin sila dito sa production na to. So sila yung nagtumulong sa akin na magpili ng mga spaces na gagawin namin. We've also collaborated with mental health professionals actually to check the journey itself. That was a very important process. So nagkaroon kami ng session with one of my students. Meron siyang kapatid from Ateneo. Bulataw, I think, is the center for mental health nila doon. Nagbigay siya ng session sa amin on how to deal with anxiety and depression, and they also checked the entire journey of Musta, and then she gave us suggestions. We also had the Philippine Mental Health Association check the stations as well. To see if there's going to be a problem. So I'm just going to show you first the installations, and then we can talk more about some of the collaborations that we've done for this particular project. So there's a olfactory. Yun yung mga sa smell. There's sound, where students or audiences can listen. So the sound design is by Simo Dakanay. Meron kami mga story development or creative development processes na depende kung sino yung artist na kakolaborate ko. For Simo Dakanay, I will give him a poem, tapos yun yung magiging inspiration niya. I will tell him a story or a narrative, tapos yun yung magiging inspiration niya. So he kind of created all of these new sounds. So dun sa special station na to, aside from the ambient sound na he created, dito sa special station na to, naririnig mo lang talaga yung sound at saka yung moment na yun na nararamdaman ng character. And then later on, syempre, it's a multisensorial journey from depression to mindfulness. Hindi naman pwedeng mag-end doon na puro about depression lang. We also wanted to be helpful dun sa audience. So there's it slowly lifts the entire experience. No? It slowly lifts. No? And one of those stations na tumutulong na mag-lift ng experience is yung play station or yung tactile station. So we had the clay. It's actually a fragrant clay. It's infused with citrus smell to help elevate the mood. And of course, meron kaming station na merong nagpa-pop ka lang nung ang tawag dito. Olivia, ang tawag naman siya. Na-blanko yung utak ko.
Bubble wrap.
Ayan, bubble wrap. At marami nag-enjoy dyan sa bubble wrap wall na yan. No? Merong isa ako actually yung audience na nakita na sumanda lang siya dun sa bubble wrap wall, saka gumugulong-gulong lang siya, pinapop niya lang yung bubble wrap. So yun, nag-enjoy siya dun. This one is another installation of play by Lawin Cruz. And dun sa baba, merong video na ginawa yung cultural promotions team ng Binild, led by Julia Enriquez. So this particular part naman, if you can notice, this is a recycled bottle lang din yun, naka-project. And it invites the audience to play with it. And play is a very important part of the experience to help elevate the mood and to tell the audience that learn how to discover or rediscover your playful side. No? And then it ends in this oasis. Ito yung pinaka lift moment. So we have a mindfulness experience here. It's a guided experience. So yun. Ang pinaka special na aspect nung production na ito is the use of taste. We had 3 taste stations. Yung sa pinaka-umpisa ay yung rice water, and then yung second would be the chocolate, and then the last one would be the Wintermelon Tea. So yun. So here, like all of the senses, ang point kasi namin, usually kasi ang food kinakain mo lang, di ba? So ito, may mga productions na rin na explore ng food actually. I wouldn't say that I was the first one to explore food. Marami na. Matagal nang in-explore din yan, in-incorporate sa kanya-kanya mga productions. Meron kang mga productions kung saan it's all about cooking. Nagkukwento siya ng memory ng lola niya habang niluluto niya yung favorite na dish na ginagawa ng lola niya. Tapos after napapakain niya sa audience. So may mga nag-explore na nun. But in this particular situation, or in this case, sa Taxi Theater, ang gusto namin gawin is yung taste hindi lang siya talaga nilagay dahil food, but it's part of a design. It becomes a metonymy. No, it means something. It represents something, or it adds to the experience itself. No? So para siyang light or color when you choose it for your design. And it's incorporated in the scenography. So, sorry, these are just some stuff. Ayan, yung water, ito yung pinaka first experience nung audience. So, iinom sila nung rice water. The first station kasi is sleep. So, yung nakita nyo kanina, ito yung pakiramdam ng someone na depressed, that when you're feeling down, you want to sleep. And the more you sleep, the more you get tired, but you feel the need to sleep more. So parang it becomes an continuous cycle na natulog ka lang ng tulog, no? You can't get out of bed. So that's the first experience. And ang taste, bago ka pumasok sa room na to, meron ka kagad itong taste na to. Amber rice water. Originally, by design, I wanted something that's bland. I wanted to use tonic water and some lemon rind para may bitter tas bland, but that is expensive. And then meron kwento tukol dun sa mashed potato na walang gravy, na walang lasa as a description of depression. So I was looking for something that's more local. So naalala ko itong no? And mas nag-resonate siya actually sa audience. It kind of sets the mood and helps them experience the entire thing. I have a very, very nice story about how an audience member was affected by taste. So I'll tell that later on. So throughout the entire first experience, itong blandness na yan, yung nakababad sa mouth ng audience. And then the second one, this is during the Oasis na, no? So merong mindfulness eating part ng experience. Ito yung ginamit namin. So dark cocoa, so it's chili chocolate actually. So ito naman may pagka-scientific yung reason kung bakit yun yung pinili namin. Because it elevates the mood. Basically, the dark chocolate and the chili, it can elevate the mood of the person. So and then the last one is Wintermelon Tea. This one I included because for me, that one represents happiness. Although most people think na parang siya arnibal, napagkamala ng arnibal, but that's Wintermelon Tea. For me, that's happiness. So that punctuates the entire experience, no? And people actually also liked it. So yan yung Oasis. Yung story doon sa taste kasi, there's this one audience na after niyang mag-first station ng taste, sobrang naglinger sa kanya yung feeling na na-stimulate ng taste na yon at nag-compound siya with the stations. So by the end of the experience, hindi niya kinuha yung chocolate, hindi niya na kinuha yung Wintermelon Tea, ayaw na niya kasi sobrang powerful daw sa kanya. And nung natapos yung buong production, after namin may debriefing kasi to after eh. So after yung debriefing, lumabas na lahat ng mga audience, naiwan siya, yakap-yakap niya lang yung best friend niya na kasama niyang manood. Tapos so I had to approach. I asked him what happened. And yun nga kinuwento niya. Na-overwhelmed lang siya dun sa feeling. Tsaka gusto din niya yung message nung play about being in the moment, yung ganyan. And I told him bakit mabigat pa rin yung feeling niya. So kinuwento nga niya na hindi niya na tinuloy yung taste. So sabi ko sa kanya, yung friend niya actually yung nagsabi that he should have taken the last two because it helped her a lot. So I asked him if he wanted to take it now, no, afterwards, and he did. And then he was just laughing afterwards and he said, "Yeah, I think I should have taken the last two because it kind of closed the experience for me." So yun. So ito yung parang pinaka-Oasis. Lahat yan puro, it's a mix of upscaled, recycled materials and nature as well. So yun. Okay. That's just a general overview of Musta. I know you still have a lot of questions that I'm going to answer, especially about collaboration. So Okay. Olive, nakamute ka ata. Ayan.
Tinatry ko kasing i-absorb yung experience din nung lahat ng sinasabi mo from the taste, doon sa tactile experiences. So baka may mga tanong muna tayo before ko siguro itanong yung mga gusto kong itanong. Maybe from our students. Pwede nyo itanong diretso kay Sir Eric. Go ahead.
Open kayo ng mic. Usap tayo. Na-curious ba kayo?
Sir, ako po, Fel. Good
Yes,
afternoon. Yes, sir, kasi based dun sa ano niyo po, sa presentation, it's very interesting na yung experience na highlight siya, especially for people like what you did, yung sa musta, na merong mental health. So, yun, I think it's very interesting na you incorporated also all the sensory, all this, what do you call this, the sense of person. And I think ako kanina when you were talking about food, it reminds me of certain period of time as well sa buhay ko. And then at the same time, even the smell, like if I suddenly smell this particular smell, it would remind me a moment or a particular person na na-meet ko or whatever it is. Yon. Pero sir, now, given the pandemic and all, parang I was actually thinking forward with that, na parang it's a good experience to make people experience this kind of theater. But somehow, there are challenges, especially nowadays sa pandemic, na how will you be able to, make people experience the beauty of immersive theater there.
Very good. Actually, that's actually Olive's question to me also, no? So a lot of people are asking what's the future of immersive theater and what's the future of sensorial theater or performances ngayong digital na. Well, I always believe na all of these things that we're experiencing right now is more of a provocation, a challenge. That's how I see it. And it shouldn't stop you in exploring. My take on that is that it will require probably a different approach. It can still happen. Believe me, even in the digital platform, it can still happen. It's just up to you how open you will become in designing the experience. See, the way I look at things, and like rin to sinasabi, we encounter the world through our senses. Each and every single sense, when it meets a stimulus, it creates an encounter. When all of those encounter happen, you string them together, it forms a moment. And when you put all of those moments together, it becomes an experience. Okay? And then put all of those experiences together, it becomes an event. So, to answer your question, na ngayon merong pandemic, ngayon merong na lahat nangyayari sa digital platform, ang tanong ko lang sa'yo is, how do you create that event? So you work your way back. Okay? So you have all of those encounters. You experience the world through your senses. Some may happen digitally, some may happen at home. How do you formulate those encounters? That's where you start designing. Okay? As a storyteller, as a theater maker, a performance maker, how do you give those encounters? How do you initiate those encounters with the audience? Okay? You can have a poem. You can use visuals. You can engage with the participation of the audience in terms of preparing something with that experience. So ito yung mas nagiging meaningful yung pag-create niyo ng experience. The entire point of Musta is that you cannot control the experience of the audience. In immersive theater, you really cannot control the experience of the audience. Meron silang kani-kanilang mga take, no? Especially sa sensorial theater, may kanya-kanya silang mga kwento or narrative na makukuha. Gaya ng sinasabi ni Fel, itong smell na to, may naalala akong tao, meron akong memory na trigger, you know, at yun yung bumubuo dun sa experience ng audience. Okay? So, hindi mo makokontrol yun. So, I don't want to say, or I don't want to use the word greater, because alam niyo naman sino tong nagsabi, yung emancipated spectator.
Jax Rancière po.
Oo, nabasa niyo na yan, di ba? Yung emancipated spectator, my God. Pagkahaba-haba, isa lang ang point. Kahit nakaupo lang yon, actively participating pa rin yung audience mo. Okay? So I don't want to say, ayokong lagay dun sa comparison value, yung value ng audience participation. Kung sino nagbibigay ng greater agency, let's not go there. No? When you engage with this kind of storytelling, sensorial, immersive, it provides opportunities for other opportunities for audience engagement. Other lang, no? So you can do conventional theater and add a little bit of this. It's fine, no? Hindi siya better than the other. So yun. Ang point mo pa rin, and for taxi theater, is how do you create unique experiences for these audience members? How do you tell a story differently? So yun. Yes po. Sana nasagot ko, Fel, yung tanong mo.
Thank you, sir.
Maganda rin yung na kwento mo, Eric, na sa isang stimulus lang ay nakakapag-trigger na siya ng memories. Siguro susundutan ko lang din yung tanong ni Fel. Of course, may iba't iba tayo. Napaka-subjective kasi nun eh. Kapag kunwari yung chocolate na ginamit nyo sa taxi theater, ano ba yon? Kasi may kakilala ako, like ako favorite ko, dark chocolate. May kakilala ako na ayaw siya at all. So, kumbaga, iba-iba yung experience. Kasama ba yon sa artistic process na magkakaiba yung dating sa akin? Of course, when you look at dramatic theater, kasi minsan may sinusundan kang storya, and somehow pag natawa yung isa, parang may common na laughter na nangyayari. Pero with this, kasi merong taste, tapos iba rin yung experience sa bubble wrap. So, kasama ba yon na talagang iba-iba yung experiences at saan papunta yon? Kumbaga, how would you, hindi ko alam kung tama yung word na minamanage ba, or how do you prepare for those experiences na iba-iba?
Ang sasabihin ko lang dyan is you have to let go. You really have to let go. Una ko natutunan yan doon sa Tacloban because yung pinaka-middle ng experience na yun, doon ko una na-discover yun eh. Yung pinaka-middle experience no, nandun yung buhos talaga ng sound ng bagyo. And then kumakain sila, ang hinain sa kanila ay surf and turf. As in steak, tsaka shrimp. No? So very, very gourmet pa yung pagkakagawa. So nagkaroon ng disconnect yung experience na eto naalala ko yung Tacloban, tapos yung nangyari doon, tapos eto yung kinakain ko. And sabi ko, that's part actually of the experience. Noong una akala ko may mali, pero when I was finalizing the scene, sabi ko, ito yung point actually. Nandito tayo sa Manila, we are far from what is happening and we know what is going on in Tacloban, pero eto yung nasa harap natin. So nagkaroon ng different impact yun sa mga nandun, sa experience na yun. Pero meron ako isa o dalawa na iba yung naramdaman nila. Naiyak sila, actually. So, sabi ko, okay, so ito siguro talaga yung susi sa ganitong production. You have to really let go. For Musta, lahat ng mga I'm very thankful na nag-guide kami actually ng psychologist tsaka ng psychiatrist. Nagkaroon din kasi kami ng session with the Philippine Mental Health Association. When you engage in something this sensitive, you really need to be responsible. Okay? Hindi lang siya basta-basta gagawin mo para lang. No? There's also a personal reason why I wanted to engage in this kind of production. So I just wanted to make that clear first. Hindi siya, things like this, you don't do this para lang. No? Or makirayan sa trend. When you explore storytelling, when you explore innovative storytelling, it really has to come from the heart, no matter how cliche that might sound. But you have to start there. Okay? So yun. Ano nga ba sinasagot ko na tanong? Nawala ako bigla.
Experiences. Yeah.
So, different people have different ways of dealing with coping with mental health problems. And yes, it was part of the design. meron akong audience, nanonood ako, every show, pinapanood ko talaga yung responses nila. Meron ako isang audience member na hindi talaga siya nag-engage doon sa pinaka-last part sa Oasis. Okay? We were doing all of this mindfulness thing. It's a guided, nakaganon lang siya. Meron kaming stone. Nakaganon siya, tapos nag-text na siya. All throughout. No? Dapat ba ako, as a creator, dapat ba ako ma-offend? No, actually. You have to give that freedom to the audience. If someone needs to, may option actually sila to walk out. They can walk out if they want to. If they feel that the experience is a little bit too much, may orientation kami ng audience at the beginning. We tell them that if you feel that it's too much, merong mga nakabantay na mga students or mga ushers, we will bring you immediately to the lift portion of the experience if you don't want to. We also have psychologists actually na naka-standby to help them with their anxiety. So, kailangan mong planuhin yon, all of those things. Merong isa hindi niya tinapos yung food, no? Tapos yun yung kinukanto kanina, yun yung naging effect sa kanya. So yun yung madadala niya. And you have to be okay with that as a creator, as a performance maker. You have to be okay with that. Does it ruin your design? Does it ruin the point? Not necessarily. Yun yung beauty nun, actually. So when they watch again, or when they watch again with a different company, no, a friend, no, iba rin yung experience na yun. So yun yung maganda actually. Kaya ako gusto yung ganitong format. Walang pare-parehas na experience. Like theater, actually, basically. Walang pare-parehas na experience. In-expand mo lang yung idea yun na it's never the same.
Yeah, never the same. Siguro yun din yung tanong ko, Eric. Kasi nga nandun tayo sa experience nila ng mga items na available sa performance. Meron ba silang sinasagutan ng form before they come in sa performance siguro? Kasi syempre may food restrictions siguro or may allergies yung mismo yung mga audience natin. So may ganun ba before you start a performance?
In the original design, yes. Because of the food, we were supposed to have a process na ito yung manonood, may fill upan sila na Google form, ano yung mga allergy nila. But we couldn't do that because we have limited amount of time. So we have to forego that part of the journey. But what we did was make it optional. So ito yung tell us if you want or not want to take it. So if we tell them what it is. And if they're allergic, they don't take it. So far naman, wala kami nagkaroon ng case na nag-refuse siya because she's allergic. But that's lucky. I'm not saying na it's well planned. That was just lucky na wala kaming audience na allergic ako dyan, hindi ko pwedeng take yan. Meron ba kayong another option? Pero ideally, dapat meron kang backup plan doon. Sinumerte lang kami. And I'm telling you, that's lucky. Not smart. Just lucky.
Yeah, thank you. Meron pa bang may ibang tanong?
Hello po. Victor po.
Okay.
Ayun. Good afternoon, Sir Eric. Ayun po, dun sa mga diniscuss niyo po, sobrang interesting po para sa akin nung paggamit po ng materials bilang way para makapag-stimulate ng experience. Kasi wala lang, dun po, parang dun ako na-draw habang nagdi-discuss po kayo. Pero aside from dun, na-curious lang po, aside from dun po sa mga nabanggit niyo po, parang paano nyo po na-prepare yung audience nyo before the experience? Parang ganun po. Parang yun lang po. Kahit na ang tawag dito, varied yung experience. Pero parang aside from dun sa varied experiences na yun, paano nyo po sila pin-prepare para dun po sa experience na yun?
Okay. I understand yung point mo dun, no? Unang-una sa lahat, no, in terms of preparing the audience, you can only do so much. Okay? And if you want to engage in immersive theater or sensorial theater, kailangan mo talaga mag-let go. And you need to accept that. Na no matter how much preparation you do, no matter however you want to prep them, hindi mo talaga makakontrol yung response nila. So pag na-accept mo na yon, then you can start doing the small things that you can do to sort of prepare them. No? For Musta, meron kami orientation sa umpisa. So we talk to the audience and we kind of discuss or describe the experience, how it will, how it will transpire. So bibigyan din kami mga rules kasi important yon. So sinasabi namin na pwedeng pakitabi, pakisilent yung phone. Pwede kayo mag-take ng pictures if you want, pwede kayo mag-video, pero wag nyo muna ipopost. At as much as possible, naka-silent yung phone kasi masisira yung experience ng ibang tao. Again, di mo sila makokontrol doon. No? Sa sound, sana, makontrol mo sila. We also encourage them not to talk to each other that much. So, yun yung mga ways, no, to prepare them. Also, safety protocols. No? Yun yung mas importante sa preparation, actually. And for this to work, you also need to give them the freedom to explore. No? So, bibigyan mo sila ng sort of overview. Ito yung pwedeng i-explore. But don't worry, meron kami mga safety protocols in place to help you just in case. Yun. But what I will share with you is how I prepare the experience. Kasi sabi ko nga, hindi mo makokontrol the experience ng audience. How can you make sure that it will work? Yun yung pinaka-question nun. And believe me, I've had so many nights, sleepless nights, thinking that, baka hindi to mag-work. Baka isipin ng mga tao, niloloko ko lang sila. No? But as a creator, what you should do is you know how some film directors, they play the movie in their head. When I wrote Mulagat, I was playing the entire thing in my head before I write it dun before I type it sa computer. Here, for Musta and for Tacloban, I try to go through the moments. So there's a lot of me in it, in a way. And then I collaborate with the students and ask them, how do you respond to this? And then they give in their input and we kind of change and modify. So it's a continuous process of going through the experience from the start to the final moment. So yun. And I do that not as a creator, but I do that as an audience. So if I'm experiencing this, I'm going through this one by one. Okay? So yun.
Thank you po, sir.
Meron pa po?
Meron po. This is Isa. Hi, Eric. Napaka-interesting nung shinare mo sa amin ngayon. Tapos, hinaisip ako, kasi sa aking pagbabasa, na-encounter ko si Rudolf Steiner at meron siyang pag-intindi ng senses, kung paano ang senses ay it communicates with different areas of your life and of your experience, psychological, emotional. And so itong dinesign mong experience or performance, it really parang communicates to the spectator subconsciously. Kasi nga, parang it communicates to us through taste, 'di ba? Sound, touch. Tapos yun yung pinaka talaga nagmamarka, I think, para sa akin. Kung ganon, kasi nakita ko dun sa Musta, ang ginamit mo, may ginamit ka pa ring narrative. Meron ka na bang experience na nag-design ka ng palabas, pero ang iyong ginamit na parang anchor or spine ay parang objectives? Tumutungo ito dun sa dun sa sinabi mo kanina na kayo ay nag-explore ng applied theater. Yun po.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Isa. That's a wonderful question. I will try to answer it. Totoo lahat yung sinabi mo about the senses and how it can trigger memories, how it can resonate more, no, doon sa audience. And that's also the very reason why I'm very careful when I'm designing it. And it's one of the reasons why I chose to have a structure or narrative so far. I haven't I haven't done anything na walang narrative, na mainly objective lang, because it's hard. I need it would have to entail a higher level of planning, no, and strategically designing the entire thing. You are in each and every moment of the production. You have to curate it. You have to check it. You know that you cannot control the response, but you still have to, study it. Make sure na ako as a creator, at the very least, ito yung gusto ko ma-stimulate. Pag hindi ito na-stimulate sa kanila, it's okay. Pero ano ba yung mga posibleng ma-stimulate sa kanila? So mamarkahan, lahat ng probabilities na yun, imamap mo pa rin kasi yun eh. And then, tsaka ka magkakaroon ng backup plan. Of course, hindi mo siya ma-exhaust lahat. No? Pero due diligence na lang din on your part. No? Kasi nga, grabe siya mag-resonate. Lalo na if you use it in sensitive topics or areas like mental health. So for me, most people kasi, they still respond to stories. So kaya pinili ko pa rin na magkaroon ng narrative. In the future, pwede ba ma-explore yung gano'n na walang narrative? Pwede actually. I haven't done it yet. Maybe some of you might want to explore it. Of course, papanoorin niyo ako. Gusto ko mapanood yun. I will try, but not yet. Mahirap pa siya. But what's beautiful about it, even with your narrative, essentially, the audience is already forming their own narrative. Even if meron kang anchor na narrative na ganon, meron silang gumagawa sila na sarili nilang subplot in a way. And sa ngayon, okay pa siya sa akin. Just imagining the idea na walang anchor, medyo natatakot pa ako. Baka ma-lost yung audience, no? But of course, that's something that can be explored and would be wonderful, actually.
Thank you.
Thanks, Isa. Sana sagot ko yung tanong mo. Ang ganda ng question mo, actually. Meron pa po ba?
Hello po.
Hi, Seth.
Hello po. Ako po, si Seth.
Okay.
Apo. Hello po. Thank you po sa napakaganda pong explanation about it. Actually, I'm from the College of Music po. And nagtitake po ako ng Theater 100 elective kasi sobrang wala lang po, interesting po sa akin yung, syempre, of course, college music, part rin siya ng performance making, syempre po. So parang bago po sa akin yung mga idea na ganito kasi parang yung traditional na way ng pag-perform yung alam ko, like merong spectators, merong performers, yung ganun po. So sobrang ganda po na share po yung mga ganitong bagay po. Isa po sa mga kumuha po ng attention ko ay yung may speaker, ay yung may headphones po, like yung sa sound design, ganun po. Tanong ko lang po, sa pag-oversee nyo po sa mga sensorial theater na nagawa nyo na po, ano po kaya yung mga tip nyo sa mga future na performance maker, lalo-lalo na po sa mga musicians tsaka sa mga music producers po? Yan po.
So yun, Seth, in my production, sound is very, very important. It's even more important than the visuals for me. So meron akong si Simo Dakanay, no? He's a graduate of music production sa amin. I've worked with him several times since Mulagat. At simula nun, siya lang yung gusto kong katrabaho kasi mas nagkakaroon ka ng relationship with your designers, and it's very important na naiintindihan niyo yung wavelength mo. You have to understand as a music creator, meron kang mga kine-create na mabilis lang, artistically excellent, but you don't really, you do it for the money, I guess. Sorry to say that. Pero meron ka ng mga projects na talagang binubuhusan mo nung loob mo, nung everything. You put your soul into it. And that's the reason why namimili rin ako ng mga tao sometimes, no? Na palagi ko nakaka-collaborate. Kasi sa process namin ni Simo when creating the sounds for my productions, talagang kailangan ko siyang kailangan ko siyang mapaintindi sa kanya yung nararamdaman ko and how I see it and how I feel about it. Yun yung language ko eh. Siya kasi nakakaalam ng mga technical stuff. Na naiintindihan niya na yun yung process ko. And then, he would create something that also resonates with him. Yung mga sounds na yun, yung mga sound stations na yun na naka-headphones, I will tell him, this is my experience of depression. And then he'll say, okay, narinig kita, na alam ko yung mga gusto mong marinig na mga sounds, pero listening to your story, eto kasi na-pick up ko. So sa kanya yun, sa kanya nag-resonate doon. So you have to follow your impulse in terms of designing that kind of sound. Largely lahat ng mga sounds na ginagamit ko sa Musta, ganun yung naging proseso namin. Meron akong stimulus na bibigay sa kanya, pero fa-follow niya pa rin yung impulse niya. And then we slowly work and revise, continuous revising lang yun, no? Para makuha namin yung tamang timpla. So yun. But then again, even if nanggaling yun sa, inspired yun by my experience or by the story na nakiwento ko sa kanya, at yun ay ginawa mula sa impulse niya, iba pa rin yung magiging dating sa audience nun. And that's okay.
Yes po. Thank you po. Thank you po sa answer.
Yun. Basically, I think yun, when you create something, it has to come from the right place. I don't know what is the right place, but you just know that it's right and it feels right. That's why I say it has to come from the right place. Okay? Musta was designed because I was at that point in my life na kailangan ko ng something to deal, with grief. And it helped me. And and after that I realized as an artist, maybe this is one way of doing things, making sure that you're coming from the right place. It feels right doing this. So yun. So far yung naging magandang guide sa paggawa ko. Yes. Meron pa po bang iba pang tanong? So, iyon. Kung walang tanong, magdadaldal pa ako ng konti. Yung sa pag-create namin nung mga text for Musta, it came from different experiences. May experience from a student, may experience from another person na kilala namin, na hindi student, merong advice yung psychologist na case na nakita na na-handle niya, and also myself, so fino-form namin yun, and then dun sa mga sessions namin with the students, creative sessions namin or ideation sessions, dun nilalatag namin yun, and then kukunin namin yung response, and then we just revise. Ano pa?
Do you have any future projects in mind or meron ka na bang anything na binabrew ngayon?
To be honest, meron before the pandemic. But when the pandemic hit, I was very productive at the first half. And then now, itong mga latter months na to, medyo talagang tinamaan na talaga ako ng isolation. So it's quite difficult. If you ask me about something that's concrete, I won't be able to give you anything. But itong mga nakaraang mga linggo na to, I feel that even if I'm not actively producing something, I am actively feeling my way to the next production that I'm going to do, the next project that I'm going to do. There are some things in mind, and I'm still weighing which one is more, kung saan ako maglilin forward towards. So yun. Ang vague ng sagot ko. Pero yun. Feeling my way pa rin into creating something.
Sir, meron po akong inquiry din. Yung kasi sir, you mentioned a while ago dun sa, as a response dun sa question ni Ma'am Uled, yung you have to let go dun sa pwedeng maging experience. You have to let go on what they can get from the experience itself dun sa theater. Ang question ko sir, I'm not sure sir if you already watched it, yung kay Marina Ambromovic, yung Ambramovic pala, sorry. Pinawatch siya sa amin ni Ma'am sa Theater 100. And then, may mga nababasa din akong article about it sa immersive theater na parang the danger in that is that there's a tendency for, sexual assault or whatsoever, especially if the theme has something to do with gender. Like for example, kunwari ang theme ng immersive theater na to would have something to do with the body of women or gender in general. Medyo crucial yung topic. So, paano yun, sir? Paano natin ano yun? How can we truly let go in that kind of setup?
Actually, I will encourage you to also search yung mga cases sa immersive theater because there's a lot of case, especially kahit sa mga Punch Drunk, yung Sleep No More, kung saan yung audience mismo nang haharas ng players. It happens actually. So to answer your question, it depends on what kind of creator you are. Meron akong, to be honest, meron akong na-encounter na they wanted to create something. Like, let's say, and when you tell them that, hey, you have to consult a psychologist and you have to make sure that in the space, merong available na help just in case may audience ka na mag-breakdown. And then tell you, they chose to watch it. So it's they're accountable for it. No? May mga ganun mga artist. Meron din naman ng mga tao na gusto na my internet connection is unstable. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Am I clear?
Yes. Yes.
So meron namang mga creator kung saan pinaplano talaga nila 'yon. For us, ang ginawa namin, nag-engage talaga namin yung mga offices na pwedeng tumulong sa amin to maintain that safety. You have to let go of the experience, but of course, meron kang structure, meron kang safety protocols in place. So for us, for Musta, pag hindi na nila kinaya yung experience, meron kami mga several options for them. In fact, ang isa sa mga advice sa amin ng Philippine Mental Health ay magkaroon ng stations, ng breathing stations, kung saan meron lang white wall, tapos meron ka lang guide doon na binabasa on how to, take control of your breathing, and stuff like that. So it's your responsibility for me to place those protocols, to guard or to guide your audience so that you can let go. You have to let go in terms of their engagement, whatever they take in. But in terms of what they will do, medyo mahirap naman maging chaotic. Magiging chaotic kasi pagka talagang free for all. So maglalagay ka pa rin ng konting structure. If-frame mo pa rin yun. Safety protocols, plan A, plan B, plan C. Masaya at madugo at the same time. Pero for me, masaya siya. Yung ganon. Yung pagpaplano na ganon. So, yun. Kailangan may safety protocols ka pa rin. For immersive theater, actually kasi yung mga harassment na ganyan sa audience, meron sila para sa may mga bouncer na rin in a way. No matter how much they try to guide the audience or warn the audience, there are instances kung saan may isa o dalawa kang audience talaga na it will take it to the extreme. And you must have safety nets for that.
Eric, dun
Yes.
sa kwento mo, this is Isa, dun sa kwento mo, parang naalala ko yung kapag kailangan mong umamoy ng coffee beans or kunyari umaamoy ka ng perfume, tapos bibili ka, kailangan aamoy ka naman ng coffee beans para ma-cleanse yung
Palette.
pang-amoy mo. Yeah, yung palette. So naisip ko dun sa breathing spaces na sinuggest nung mga psychologists, parang kailangan talaga, no, dahil pwedeng ma-overload yung senses mo kapag nag-participate ka sa ganitong performance. Naisip ko lang sa panahon ngayon ng pandemya, ang interesting na yung senses natin na nag-engage ngayon sa virtual space ay talagang parang bombarded din siya, no? Pero it's really interesting if later on you could think of ways in designing parang a performance that involves this virtual space. Kasi nga, parang kakaiba rin siyang engagement. And it's so exciting kasi right now they have parang different applications and also kunya VR. So yun lang. Yun lang naisip ko habang iniisip ang inyong ginagawa.
Yes. I will, part actually no pinag-iisipan ko ngayon, no. Nasabi kasi yan ni Olive din as a challenge na before inviting me to this brown bag session, sinabi niya rin sa akin na napag-isipan ko din yun. And actually yun din yung sa mga pinag-isipan ko ngayon, feel ko, because kailangan mong maging sensitive and discerning in a way, kung paano mo siya gagawin para maging effective siya. You have to experience it yourself. Kailangan mo rin kumbaga, in a way for me, I need to feel the overwhelming effects of doing everything on digital, and then what is it that I need personally to breathe or to gain my grounding. And then that's the next process would be to find someone who can help, and then ask them, okay, if people are experiencing this, how do we help them? That's the start on how I formed Musta, and that's pretty much the process that I'm going through right now. So based on my personal experience, yung saturation na nararamdaman ngayon, yung isolation, yun, paano mo ngayon i-bridge ngayon yun to where you wanna go. So, but don't worry, of course, kukwentuhan ko kayo, no? Kasama naman kayo sa mga sounding board ko, no? So if ever meron ng something, I'll tell you guys about it so we can work together also. Yes, Seth, sige, pasama ka. Pwede rin.
May mga tanong pa ba tayo?
Pinapulot ba kayo? Sana may natutunan kayo.
May natutunan. Siguro, Eric, ang magandang nakuha ko from your session is, of course, nagsisimula rin siya doon sa experience mo. Kasi nga yung Musta, yung mga beginnings actually ng Taxi Theater, nagmula siya sa experience mo. And siguro doon ko rin natututunan na, ayokong sabihin na universal, pero siguro may shared experiences at may shared concerns din tayo. Kaya rin siguro nakaka-relate yung audience sa performances ng Taxi Theater. And isa siguro sa mga nabasag din nito is how we create performances na napaka-importante ng production part. Kasi minsan ang iniisip lang natin is the output. Pero the way you curate it, the experience, ang daming binubuhos na oras sa production side pa lang. And yung nakita kong combination ng low technology tsaka high technology doon sa mismong production, yun nga parang aesthetics of poverty, yung mga parang ini-incorporate mo dito. Very PETA din yung approach, yun din yung nakikita ko kasi yung available resources na common materials, yun yung pwede palang gamitin. And of course, yung ethics, yung ethical na discussion pagdating sa pag-design na aesthetic experience, lalo na you were tackling, Musta was tackling mental health. So, ang maganda dito ay yung pag-connect din at pag-partner sa mga professionals na alam syempre yung ginagawa nila because as theater practitioners and performance makers, hindi natin expertise yon, and yun yung nakikitang bagong proseso, yung kumbaga nakikipag-collaborate, at siguro doon din yung experience din ng audience. Para siyang museum yung take kasi in a museum you can drift away. Kung kunwari hindi mo na type, you can just go to another object or another subject na pwede mong tingnan, or pwede kang kumain. Lumabas muna, kumain ka muna, magkape ka muna. So, na hindi siya parang dramatic theater na you have to be fully there to understand the narrative. Ito ay yung narrative ay nanggagaling sa audience at siya yung nagtatahi actually ng experience. Na kahit na may character na sinusundan sa musta, naku-complicate nito. Actually, nakipag-negotiate sa experience yung mismong audience. And thank you for that because ang daming alternative. Siguro for last question, kasi natanong ko rin kay Isa to. Kasi you were using low technology and high technology for immersive or experiential theater to happen. Hindi ba kailangan siya lagyan ng budget because you're relying on the aesthetic experience? Siguro para rin sa information namin at ng mga estudyante, if we're going to create a performance such as Musta, malaki po ba ang budget, Sir Eric? I mean, how do we begin? Saan kami titingin? Ano yung, like, kunwari, I'm designing this particular emotion or feeling. Then, how do you know? Parang how do you select the technology that you will use for this specific performance? And at the same time, paano kung di siya kaya ng budget? Paano mo nini-negotiate siguro? Just to end this session para lang makita natin yung economic side ng paggawa ng experiential theater.
So, to be honest, if you wanted to create something exactly how Musta turned out to be, no, in a theater space with all of those intelligent lighting and sound system, malaki, because I was lucky enough to have that space for free because it was done in Benilde. So yun. But if what you're after is the experience, creating an experience similar to it, but not necessarily at the same scale, you can with no budget at all. Why? Why do I say this? Because kung ako ay naabutan ng time na gusto kong gawin yung Musta at wala ako ng mga facilities na yon, I would still create it with whatever that I have. And it shouldn't stop you. I think yung naturo din ang PETA sa akin, yung aesthetics of poverty. I don't think you can effectively and creatively maximize the use of expensive equipment if you don't know how to create with no equipment. Ayun yung pakaramdam ko. At yun yung magaling talaga ang Pilipino kasi meron tayong dumiskarte in a good way. So, as an advice, it shouldn't stop you kung wala kang equipment. Don't be frustrated. Take it as a challenge. It should provoke you into creating something. Nakita niyo naman yung mga yung sa smell stations ko. Yung nakita kong example sa mga smell stations, naka-vacuum seal yung room. Para mas ma-appreciate yung sound. Hindi ko kaya yun. So, ang ginamit ko, nag-recycle ako ng mga bote ng McCormick. Tapos, dinesignan ko ng smell around it, tsaka aesthetically pleasing, So, ganon, didiskartehan mo na lang. So, learning how to work with what you have makes you actually, more creative than you would believe that you're capable of. Tama ba yung sentence ko yun? Sa point ko, pag nag-work ka dun sa budget, pag nag-work ka sa wala, magugulat ka sa nung kaya mong gawin. Okay. Tanggapin mo yun. Pag natanggap mo na yun, mas marami kang magagawa.
Maraming salamat, Eric, sa iyong panahon para i-share ang Taxi Theater at yung mga performances na ginagawa ninyo. And I hope sa mga estudyante natin na nandito at sa mga manonood pa nito sa ating YouTube, sana makakuha sila ng ideas kung paano rin actually i-break yung laging structure ng paggawa ng performance at i-consider ang collaborative process. So again, thank you very much. Mr. Eric Villanueva de la Cruz for sharing your time with us.
And to anyone who, if you have questions, you can, even those who are watching on YouTube, you can visit Taxi Theater on Facebook or message me. We can talk about things or possible productions maybe together. I welcome them. Thank you, Olive and Ish and Isa, everyone here. Thank you.
Okay, naka-stop recording tayo pero baka pwede tayo magpa-picture lang na mabilis. Nandyan pa bang ating mga students? Hi students, kapag kaya nyo mag-video, baka pwedeng pabukas.
Another project has ended, but it is with pride that this brown bag online forum on emergency theater and performance was realized, and many of you were able to attend it. This forum, which focuses on possibilities and problems of theater and performance in this time of the pandemic, tackled a wide range of issues, and we are thankful to the speakers who shared their valuable knowledge and experience. From new and emergent performance forms and ways of exploring possibilities of online and digital modalities, especially on the learning and teaching of theater and performance, under the state of artist welfare during this global health crisis. The topics open windows of possibilities and opportunities. They enrich our knowledge on issues in theater and performance in this time of COVID. One of the sectors in the society that has been heavily impacted by this pandemic is the theater and entertainment industry. So this forum is very relevant and timely to reflect on how these matters are being dealt with and to give us insights on how to stay afloat despite the huge challenges that we have to face. I thank all the speakers who generously shared their valuable knowledge and experience on the various topics that were shared on this forum. I will give a special shout out to my former student, Mr. Robert Arlo de Guzman. Thanks, Arlo, for joining this very important activity. And most of all, I thank the organizers of the forum, our ever-energetic and hard-working faculty of the Theater Division of the Department of Speech, Communication, and Theater Arts, led by Assistant Professor Olivia Nieto. We are also grateful to the UP Diliman Office for Initiatives in Culture and the Arts, or OICA, for their support in this project. I hope that the knowledge gained and the valuable lessons learned from these lectures will help us navigate during these difficult times. May we overcome this with hope in our hearts and trusting that this too shall pass. Mabuhay kayo.